what I should be doing in ministry. Because right now, I've got a million plates in the air, and I'm trying to juggle them all, and I can't possibly continue at the speed I'm at. I've been where you are. I'm going to tell you how I stumbled into the whole social media, technological world a little bit. It was quite by accident. It was very selfish, actually. In my last assignment, I was serving as a children's pastor, and I was on staff. And it was a decent-sized church, and I was really bothered by the fact that we didn't have even a Facebook page. And I'm going to tell you why it bothered me. I wanted to be able to blast my announcements all over that page because people needed to know what I was doing, because what I was doing was important, right? So guess what happens? What happened to me is just like what happens to all of us in ministry when we're like, we're missing the boat on this one thing, and this is something we should be doing. We end up doing it, right? So little by little, I began to dip my toe into the water, and then before I knew it, I was just in over my head. And I want to tell you how this, these last years, it's been sustained in me. It's become a hobby. It's a weird thing. It's a weird little nerdy hobby. I'm an Enneagram 3, type A, firstborn, driven, I don't stop person, like ever. I don't have hobbies. So this to me was like a fun little outlet because it still allows me to have my competitive spirit at play in some ways, because I like to see how we can move the needle when it comes to affecting people on social media and through our media channels. But again, if you're here this morning, my goal is not to give you a million things and to shame you and make you feel like you're just missing the mark. My goal is to inspire you, and my goal is to help you understand how doable this is and why it's super important. You'll see in front of you the handouts that were placed on the table. If you didn't get one of them, you can stand up and wave like a crazy person or something, and we'll get you taken care of there. In this presentation, there are about 6 hours worth of material, and I'm going to try to distill that down as best I can for you this morning. So I'm going to talk rapidly. I'm going to go at you rapid fire. But if you ever get confused or lost, or I'm going too fast, or I'm just off on a rabbit trail, which does happen from time to time, feel free to just rein me back in. If you're so desperate for more when we get done with this, I brought the book with me that I also wrote on this subject. So I'd be happy to put that in your hands if you are at all interested. What I'm going to do on this worksheet is I'm going to kind of just go back and forth, but we are going to start with the first point on here, right? If you are a fill in the blanker, and I miss any of the blanks as we go along, I know you won't be able to rest tonight as you lay your head on the pillow because you missed the second point on my worksheet. See me afterwards and I'll fill you in on all that too. I want you to think of social media as kind of a dinner party, right? We're going to talk today in terms of what it looks like to create a dinner party that people love to attend. And I want you to, in many ways, we can learn from what doesn't work, right? So I want you to think about, if you were to go to a dinner party and you didn't feel welcome, how does that feel? It's uncomfortable. It's annoying in many ways. It's disheartening. You just don't know how to navigate. And many times that's the world that we create with our social media without intending to. And I'll kind of get into that in a little bit. The first point that I want to address this morning is, who will you invite to your social media dinner party? Most of us have never even asked that question. So here's the big one. Who, for whom, does your social media exist? For whom does your website exist? 99.9% of the churches that I work with in this area, when they get real about it, the answer is it exists for our own church people. We're missing the boat when our social media and our websites only exist for our own church people. We feed the consumer mentality, if you will, as leaders. So I want us today to stop and to really shift our thinking a little bit to answer that question. For whom does our stuff exist? Who are we posting for? Are we making posts so that Joe Schmo and Nancy Nazarene that are sitting in the back who are going to send us the letters under our door and whatever else, are we outreach or discipleship tools. If your target audience is people who are not yet members of your church, have you ever thought about that before? Because that's the other thing. Many church leaders have never thought about that. They enter into the whole social media realm like I did, assuming this is for our own church people. So if it exists for an unchurched person, people who are not yet members of your church, you're going to shift your content to posts that share hope, create engagement, and facilitate community in a digital space. And then I want you to answer this question. Or maybe you can go home today or tomorrow or whatever, or just text some people on your way out of here today and ask them, some other leaders in your church, who does our social media exist for? Who does our website exist for? And maybe that's something we need to look at. Maybe that's something that we need to address, because this shouldn't be a Lone Ranger approach coming from just you, right? But I want you to also ask them this question then. Why bother? Is your goal to get butts and benches? Or is your goal to start meaningful conversations and invite people to an intimate gathering around this dinner table? If you think about all of the great things that happen around tables, there are moments of like extreme excitement where we're saying to people, I've got someone I want you to meet. Or we're saying to people sometimes around tables, listen, I've got some questions, I'm wrestling with some things. Sometimes around tables, we share really bad news or something I need to tell you. Important stuff happens around tables, right? And so as leaders in ministry, we want to broaden our tables, and we want to invite more and more people to our tables. People who don't look like us. People who don't think like us. People who approach life and ministry differently than us. We want to make room for them at our table. But if our only goal ever is to get butts and benches, we're not going to be able to have intimate conversations that change the lives of people. So we have to shift our thinking. We have to approach social media and technology in a different way, with a different mindset. Come follow Jesus isn't necessarily tied to a physical address. I want you to let that sink in for a second. Where does church happen? Church happens obviously at 2324 Jackson Street, Anderson, Indiana, the location of the Anderson First Church of Nazareth, right? Church happens at 698 North 5th Street, Middletown, Indiana. Guess where church also happens? Church happens at 5255 West 950 North when I go home every day. Church happens when I'm interacting around tables with my friends and with my family. Friends, I want to invite you today to create church wherever you go. But I especially want to invite you today to create church in your social spaces. It is doable. If you think about it like this, think about if you were to invite people to your house, and they walk up to your front porch, right? And they never make it any further than your front porch. That's nice, you've had some interactions with them. But when we talk about doing effective social media ministry, we're talking about getting them off of our front porch to doing life with us around that table. And so that's the direction we're going to continue to go this morning. Most people, truthfully, also don't know, obviously, what they don't know, right? They don't know what they're looking for. And so we have to be proactive when it comes to, hey, this is who we are, this is what we believe in, and this is why social media ministry matters. Everything you do should be done with this end goal in mind. If you don't hear anything else I say today, circle this one. To create a conversation. Here's what most people, most churches, and social media ministry looks like. We're doing a Bible study. We've got a on and told her, Suzanne, let me tell you everything that's going on in my world. Because right now, everything is about me, and everything is wonderful. And I've got all these amazing things happening, and then let me tell you about this, and let me tell you about that. Suzanne was tired of that conversation. Suzanne would begin, she's polite, but she would probably begin to tune me out. That's what happens when we blast our announcements 24/7, and when we don't understand how to really utilize the power of social media ministry. It's just like that loud, annoying voice that's constantly coming at you that you begin to tune out because you think this doesn't have anything to do with me. I didn't invite Suzanne into that conversation at all. It was all about me. If I want to do life with Suzanne, I've got to invite Suzanne into conversation with me. So starting conversations with people who are not even yet associated with our church can truly be life-changing. But we've got to understand that has to be our goal rather than saying, our church is amazing and this is where we do church and you need to come check it out because we love it. Because most people are going to be like, that's awesome for you. They're not going to say, oh, that's something I want to be a part of. And that's why I want to be a part of something like that. So what I want you to do is I want you for just a quick second to talk to the people at your table and I want you to answer this question. What role do I want our social media community to play in the overall vision of our church? It's a deep question. I'm going to give you 3 minutes. What role do I want our social media? Some of them are just that. What role do I want our social media community to play in the overall vision of our church?
That's good. What did you say?
Yeah, to create conversation. The first thing I thought of when she was saying it was we got to Newcastle and they had a Facebook page, but nobody knew anything about who ran it. I called the D's, they didn't know who started it, so we had to restart a new one. And nobody stepped up, so it's only when I do something to put it out there. But I'm one of those that we put on what we're doing.
It's just old news. It's another avenue to get the information, but it needs to be more.
Yeah.
So I think, then that becomes a challenge on how to create the conversations on there. How do we start once in a while, just posting questions or testimony?
I'm hoping she shares some of that stuff.
I know she's going to answer questions in the somewhere along the
But I know that some of me personally, from my Facebook page, is when you ask a question, like, tell me one memory you had of Christmas when you were a kid. You get hundreds of comments versus a picture on your way to Pops and 2 old people are going, oh, we like that, you look so good. It's all about us. But when you ask somebody their old what do you remember, it adds to it. So what are we trying? I think I like that. The creating the conversation.
Creating something.
Nope, you're fine.
Church. More than one time.
Well, I think the announcements that you're reading into conversation.
So I'm wondering for how many of you, was that the very first time you ever thought about that before? How many of you, that was the first time you ever thought about that? A lot of times, it's just the way ministry goes, isn't it? We're flipping out flyers constantly. We're trying to come up with the next latest and greatest. We're trying to meet everyone else's expectations, that we're going a mile a minute. And we know that social media is something they say we should be doing. So we think we should be doing, but we never stop to think about what role should that play, or do we want it to play in our overall approach to ministry. And before I forget to say this, I emailed Dr. Lick this morning a few visuals. So you can get those from him afterwards. I just said it to him that he can do whatever if he wants to post them on your district as a page or something, email them to you. But take home and to give to your church people. Because I know that you're sitting here today thinking, I can't do one more thing. I can't do one more thing. And how am I going to explain to them why this is important? There are some 5 reasons you need to have a web, or the 5 things you need to include on your website. Here are the top 10 post ideas, and here's why you need to be on social media. There are some visual things like that that would just be helpful for you, even to share with your church leadership. So that's an option for you too. But we're going to move our thinking from broadcast media, which is all about me, blah, 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 our announcements, when we start sounding like Charlie Brown's teacher, wah, 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 right, to broadcast ministry. Have you ever thought before about how you might actually do ministry through social media? It's possible. I led an online Bible study through a Facebook group a while back and had 85 people participating in it. 85 people. Many of them I didn't know. Think about the potential in that. So if you're here today and you're like, social media, look at it like that. We're moving from broadcast media to broadcast ministry. That this is a ministry tool, so that is the mentality shift that has to make many times. I want you to turn to the middle of your worksheet here. We're going to go to point number 6. We don't want anybody to get food poisoning at our dinner party, right? We're going to talk about, or sitting, we'll sometimes need to sit across the Thanksgiving table from that uncle, the one who wants to, after he's not eating, he's the one that nobody else wants to sit beside. Sometimes in social media world, that's what we become as churches. So we're going to kind of break down what not to do. The first point there, the first mistake that churches make is, again, lasting announcements, like I just said. Stop blasting your announcements. Now, there is a time and place for you to be able to publicize what you need to publicize, and we'll get to that in a minute. But it can't primarily be, this is what's going on in our church. The second mistake lots of people make there is insider information and lingo. By that I mean, hey, come to Club 456 this week. Hey, see Pastor so-and-so. Hey, see Vicky in the foyer. If you want to do this, I want you to call Jerry. Who in the world's Jerry? Why do I care who Jerry is? Who's Vicky? Who's Pastor so-and-so? What's a Club 456? What's a fellowship? What's a fellowship hall? What's a foyer? I know what a lobby is in the mall, but I don't. What's a foyer? We're so guilty of making the assumption that people know what we're talking about. But if you go back to that very first question I asked you a little bit ago, which was, for whom does your social media exist? If your social media channels exist to reach out and to speak into the lives of other people, to draw them in, and you're using insider information and language, it makes everyone else feel like they just don't belong. A few months ago, I was traveling up north, and when I'm traveling, I like to find new coffee shops, right?
Amen.
So I'll just Google coffee shop near me. I stumbled into this coffee shop. And I'm not kidding, it was like a scene out of a weird movie. It was full of, you know how like right now it's a big deal to have like these Himalayan salt lamps? I don't even know what it is or why it is. I don't have time to figure it out. I don't care. But I walk into this place looking for coffee, right? Because the name is Some Coffee Bar. It's all these weird lamps all lit up around this room, and I'm like, what in the world? And there's a worker, an employee who's standing there by the door, and she just looks at me, and I thought, well, just keep walking, Jill, just keep walking, and we'll figure this thing out, right? So I'm like, well, know the ropes. The person standing by the door didn't say anything to me. She should have or could have easily said, "Hey, good afternoon. Are you here for coffee? Are you here for a salt lamp?" You know, like, somebody just tell me what we're doing here, and it would have alleviated some of that stress and some of that pressure that I was feeling. But when we're posting things on social media and we're using church language and church information that people don't understand, that's exactly how we make them feel. We make them feel like they don't belong there. They're not going to answer. If a person has to ask too many questions that they don't have the answers to, they're not going to want to stick around. If I hadn't found out where that actual coffee was in just a few seconds, I'd have been out that door. Because what I came for wasn't there. So stop using language that's inside your focus. And I'm going to just step on some toes here for a real quick second. And guess what? I get to leave and go home and you don't ever have to call me again. Stop posting things like beautiful quartet music. And now there's anything wrong with quartet music. But when we're posting old gospel things constantly over and over, and I'm not saying there's not a time and place for it. I'm saying a lot of churches, that's all they know to do, right? Don't go there. Because it further isolates you. It keeps people out on that front porch rather than bringing them in around that dining room table where they know they have a voice and where they feel welcome. But when we appear so far removed from the rest of the world says, "I'm going to continue to hold you at arm's length because I don't get you." People are weird. God's not weird. Let's help people understand that. The third mistake people often make is they're inconsistent with their posting. So you go home from something like this and you're super duper excited, and so you're like, okay, I'm going to make this a priority, and I'm going to do X, Y, and Z, and I'm going to have so-and-so do X, Y, and Z. And so you're posting every day for like 2 weeks, and then all of a sudden you run out of steam, you run out of ideas, and you get discouraged because somebody said something to you, and you just completely stop. And when you're inconsistent, people notice that. You want to know what people check out very first before they come to your church? Your social media. They'll go to your social media first, they'll go to your website second. If they go to your social media, which I'm going to tell you, this is the honest and goodness truth. You go on there and someone hasn't made a post since 2015. What does that say about your church? It says you're out of touch. It says you don't have any more room for people at your table. It says you go ahead and stay out there on that front porch and observe us all in here laughing and enjoying one another's company. And I'm not exaggerating when I say there are churches who have not posted since 2015. So if you're going to be on social media and have a presence, be consistent about it. Whether that's posting 3 times a week, whether that's posting 3 times a day, be consistent. Show up at the table. That's you showing up. Being consistent by posting and having a presence is you showing up. So what would happen if I had this marvelous dinner party and you all were just like we were all homies, right? We're all super tight, and I was going to share something great with you, and you came to this dinner party and I didn't show up. You feel a little slighted and maybe slightly annoyed, and that's what people experience when they go to our social media channels and they find that we're not consistent, when we're not showing up in those social spaces. Friends, I don't know if you understand billions and billions of people use social media every day. And if I gave Caleb the opportunity tonight and said, "Caleb, where's your church?" Okay, if I said, "Caleb, in North Vernon tonight, there's going to be a gathering in high school, and there are going to be, I don't know how many people can fit in the gym, we're going to say 2,000 people. There are going to be 2,000 people there tonight from your community, and I'm going to give you 30 seconds to share Christ with everybody in that gym." Caleb's going to show up, right? Because there's an opportunity there. We have to show up in these social spaces because that's where people are. There's an opportunity that we continue to miss when we don't show up. The fourth mistake is that people post text sharing things like video clips or photos, or they're not trying to make their presentation look any better. So text only. Your goal when someone is on social media is to get people to stop the scroll. Here's the truth. The majority of the people in your community do this every night when they go to bed. They're laying in bed, they're scrolling. You want to know how I know? Because I do it. And I know my husband's doing it, and my friends are doing it. If you want to gain some attention, and you want to earn the right to speak into the lives of other people, and you want to invite and include more people around that dinner table space, you've got to be there. You've got to make it look appealing. The fifth mistake people make is not engaging in conversation. So, if I walked up to Suzanne again, I'm going to keep using you as my guinea pig. If I walked up to Suzanne and I said, Suzanne, I want to know what your favorite ice cream flavor is, and I want to know your favorite contemporary Christian song. And I looked at her, I dropped those little questions in her lap, and then I walked away. It's not very much of a conversation, is it? I see churches make this mistake a lot too. In thinking that just posting is enough. You've got to show up. You've got to keep the conversation going. The idea, once again, is to start a conversation. So if you're posting something and someone goes on and comments on your post, you got to go back and engage with them in a conversation. You can't just drop the question and then walk out of the room, so to speak. That's rude. That's just bad manners, right? Show up. The sixth point is this, and this one is in Christian circles, Christian leadership circles. One that shirts that buttons. Only posting serious content.
Whoops, that would not be me.
You
Now,
might need
you
to
and
try
I
that.
all know
Sometimes, yeah.
hope is found in Jesus Christ. You and I all know Jesus
On the church
saves
side, I do,
lives.
but-
You and I know Jesus restores families. So I'm not saying that we get rid of that message or that we don't talk about that message. But I'll say this. Woo, if you walked into your local gas station in North Vernon and I said, hey, tell me about the North Vernon Church of Nazarene, what descriptive words would they use to describe your church? First of all, would people say, I don't know. I could very well be the reality. I don't know much about it. But would they use terms like, when they think of Christians, serious, stuffy, judgmental? Now, I'm going to go out real out then here. You ready? What if we look like a regular person on social media? Instead of a Christian person who has all of the answers and who's dying to just tell everybody how to fix their own lives. What if, gasp, your church shared a funny cat video?
Maybe
You might really rattle
Maybe a funny
the
dog.
bushes, right?
There is no such thing.
What if you actually shared a Christmas cookie recipe? What if at Thanksgiving or Halloween time, you actually get ready for it, people, brace yourselves. What if you actually shared the other trunk or treats in other churches in town on your church's page? Ouch! That's when we begin to tear down walls. That's when other people begin to see us as real people who genuinely love them, who want to invite them in to do life with us at our tables. When we celebrate businesses in our community, when we celebrate our school systems, when we engage people in conversation, when we post funny things, that's when people say, they're like me. I want to move from that front porch to that dining room table. Because maybe I'm missing something by not being around that dining room table. And maybe those Christians aren't as weird as I thought they were. Maybe they can relate to me a little bit. Mistake number 7 is using too much Christianese. That kind of goes with the number 6 that I just said there. say to someone, brother so-and-so is going to be waiting for you in the narthex after the service. What's a brother so-and-so? What's a narthex? Like, is what I think, in my mind, I think of the 30-year-old drywall hanger, right? That's the person that I'm thinking all the time. Is he going to understand what I'm posting here? Is this applicable to his life? The 30-year-old drywall hanger. He's going to say, why do you call somebody your brother? Why they say narthex? What's a narthex? You know what I mean? Stop using Christianese. It further isolates people. Mistake number 8. Posting things that no one wants to share. Because they're insider focused or just downright boring. The goal of social media is to post things that other people want to share. And so if you're saying, if you're making announcements, right, after a while people tune you out, your announcements are going to be seen less. Because less people are going to actually share your announcements. So you're shooting yourself in the foot in many ways by just posting announcements. Or if you're just posting, again, things that are like super boring and insider focused. Number 9, being argumentative. So many times in our fervor to protect what we think is right and the way we think people ought to live, we will jump on bandwagons, even as churches. And so if we were to make a comment about, this is probably a left field example, but hey, go vote today. And then somebody gets on there and they make a comment like, I hate you Republicans. And then all of a sudden, you're like, no, I need to defend this. We become argumentative. That's not the time or place. If I have a disagreement with Suzanne, I'm going to disagree with her over text message and try to continue to hope that she stays at my table having conversations with me. I'm going to say, Suzanne, let's go for coffee. Let's talk about, our differences and let's figure out a way to get through this. We can't be argumentative on social media. That's not the proper place to do that, especially on our church channels. Like, that is absolutely, positively one of the worst things you could do. Number 10, this one I've spoken on this already. Not using it. It's where people hang out, so why would you be there as well? It's like the whole example of Caleb again. If Caleb doesn't show up tonight and to do that 30-second blurb about how Jesus brings hope to the people in North Vernon, Caleb's missing one of the biggest opportunities of his life. Point number 11 is growing your page by inviting insiders. By that I mean, you can use your social media presence to actually grow your ministry and your church's presence in the community. But if you're only inviting your great Aunt Sally to like your page who lives in Pennsylvania because you want to have 75 likes really quickly, that's not going to do you any good. And don't fool yourself into thinking that that's success. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Find ways to appeal to people in your community. All right, skip back now to number 2. Number 2. Here's the whole what piece. So determine the menu. We've got 10 minutes on this section. What will you serve? How effective and how often is social media? So you're going to select your menu items, right? Working to create an environment around your table that says to people, your opinion matters to you. A number of years ago, we were all talking about how Barna research had shown that people were walking away from faith between the ages of 18 to 25, and they were just disappearing into this bubble, and we couldn't figure out why. So as leaders, we got around tables and we constantly asked the whole why, what are we missing? And then years later, they came out with another study that said, here's why. It was because young people were not given the opportunity to ask questions that mattered about the faith. They felt like even in church, there wasn't a safe place to express doubt. There wasn't a safe place to disagree. And as churches, many times that's the unintended consequence of the things Work hard to create content and a message overall with your church, not just in social media spaces. A church that says you're welcome here, or a place that says you're welcome here. You belong. You're one of us. Your opinion matters. We work to create conversations again. And why do we do that? Because conversations open doors. As a church, we expect people to come to us constantly. What if we learn to open doors of conversation in coffee shops? What if we learn to open doors of conversation with other family members or with neighbors or coworkers or people that we go to school with or whatever? Work hard to have those conversations. Do church beyond your church walls. And teach your people to do church beyond your church walls. Because those conversations create open doors. And I can tell you time and time again of people who I've had conversations with because of something they said or did on social media. It really does matter. A couple of years ago, when we first started doing our live stream for the church where I was moderating the discussion on Sunday morning during the service. And there's a guy that got on there, and he was a little bit belligerent. Now, most of us get really nervous when something like that happens to us in ministry. We don't like that, right? I mean, who likes to be confronted or feel like somebody's got something against you already? But to do it in a public arena where other people are watching is really crazy. So guess what happened? We're talking as via this social public channel space where other people are watching our service. We're having this conversation with this guy, and come to find out, and this guy was going through a lot. Here's what happened at the end of that. We extended an invitation to coffee with this guy who got on our social media channel, I think, to be belligerent. One of his friends had posted, shared the live feed on his personal story, or his personal page. But this conversation opened doors, changed lives. We have the greatest message of all time to share with people. But if we can't get people from that front porch to our tables, they can't hear it. It's our job to move them. Here's the gold standard, and this is what I want you to remember also. Use social media as a telephone rather than a megaphone. And here are the percentages that I want you to keep in mind. Because I told you there was hope. If you were wanting to share your publicity, right? You wanted to get your message out. And here's hope for you. 30% of your posts should be informational. Meaning, hey, here's a great Bible study resource. Hey, here's where all the fireworks are happening in our town this week. Go check them out with your family. Hey, did you know that our cheerleaders won state this week? Those are informational kind of posts, right? 30% of your posts should be conversational. You know how I said a minute ago, we don't have to make everything serious. Invite people into conversations by asking questions that at first, when you first hear it, you might push back or feel like pushing back with me a little bit and say, why does that matter? I'm going to tell you why. If you were to post something like on National Coffee Day, hey, here's our favorite brand, here's Pastor so-and-so's favorite brand of coffee. What's yours? Or here's Pastor so-and-so's favorite coffee shop. What's yours? People are going to get on there and they're going to comment. And then they're going to talk back and forth in the comments. They're going to say things like, oh, I haven't been to that one. What do you like to get there? Or they'll say, oh, you go there too? That's my favorite. And then guess what happens? The conversation continues in the narthex. The conversation continues in church on Sunday morning. It started on Wednesday night. They're running into Suzanne. I saw that you like to go to Jack Robert's Coffee. I'd love to go there too. What's your favorite drink there? Like, it just, the conversation continues. 30% conversations. And by that I mean open-ended conversations. It's just like when you walk up to somebody too, and you're having a conversation with them. If I ask them a yes/no question, that's the end of it, right? But you want to keep the conversation going. the competitive part of me that I talked about earlier. You are manipulating the algorithms of Facebook. And so the more traction your post gets, the more people begin to comment, and the more Facebook will start saying, let's say for example, you have 700 people on your church page, right? That like your church page. And you make a post that you're like, this is going to be amazing, right? But Facebook only shows it to 5 people, literally, that like your page. It can be so frustrating. But when you post content that's really, really good, within a couple of minutes if somebody posts on that, comments on that, Facebook says, oh, now this might be something that so-and-so wants to hear about too. Why don't I share it in their newsfeed? And then when so-and-so gets on the comments, it's just this giant trickle effect. And so every time Facebook makes major changes, right, you see it on the news. It's not like the legitimate, like, evening news, right? It's a big deal. And then you've got all these businesses and churches and people that are asking, oh no, it's going to hurt the way we show up, and what are we going to do? And here's the truth of the matter. If you're posting good content, it doesn't matter what Facebook does, because you will be working, the algorithms will work in your favor. So keep that conversation going. I can't stress that enough. This is a super fun little random tidbit. Tag people in these conversations, or ask people to tag people. So if you say, hey, here's Pastor Suzanne's favorite coffee place. What's yours? Tag your favorite friend to drink coffee with. So then I get on there and I'm like, oh, I didn't know Pastor Suzanne loved that place. Here's my favorite place. And I love to go with my best friend so-and-so. And I tag that person. All of a sudden that person's like, oh, hey, look, I'm invited to the table to this conversation with these church people that I don't even know. How awesome is that? These conversations matter. 30% should be inspirational. Guys, people in our world, I know you already know this, they're broken. Most days, for most people, they're just trying to keep their head above water.
Right.
And life is discouraging and exhausting. And if we can offer them just a little bit of inspiration every now and again as a church, that's totally being Jesus, isn't it? If you're saying, hey, I'm going to point you to the one who knows hope, because this is what he's done in my life. That's what makes a difference in the lives of people that we're ministering to via social media. 10% should be promotional. There's your 10%, all right? There's your promotional piece that you were hoping for. First, we can set up a social media channel. You were hoping to be able to publicize your videos and your trunk or treat, and your Bible studies, and your services, and whatever else. 10% of your posts, no more. If you're constantly on their blasting, you'll lose their attention. Okay, here's some informational. Actually, I'm just going to pass some ideas at you here because we're down to 1 minute. Highlight a local business in your community. I kind of touched on that earlier. What if you said, hey, take a picture of the guy that comes in, our guy that comes in the picture copy machine, and say, hey, so-and-so provides great service to not only our business, but other businesses in the community. Give a shout out to them because they're just awesome, right? That business owner's going to be like,
What is that?
read the listing, are you serious?
I can't
From a church, I didn't expect this, that's awesome. They love me, right? So get on there and see what so-and-so church down the road did with their Thanksgiving thing. This was so awesome. We're glad to be partners with them in ministry. The rest of the world, you guys, thinks that we are like this all the time, that we oppose everyone and everything. But when we can publicly say what we're all saying, it makes a difference. New in town guys, if you every now and again, here's an informational post that said, hey, if you're new to town, we want to just welcome you. Here are some of our favorite places to eat. And you make a little visual that says that on there. Or if you say, hey parents, are you looking for a great date night? Here are some great places to go. Or here's some ideas. Or if you're saying to, hey, 20-year-olds, I don't know, whatever, come up with ideas, ways that you're actually ministering to people in a way that you're not having to bring them into your church to do so. You can say things like, hey, here's an Advent devotional guide. I'd love to be able to walk you through that. And we're going to start this group, and every night I'm going to go on live, and in this group, I'm going to lead you through today's scripture reading, and we're going to do this 20 days leading up to Advent. You have informational, did you know, conversational, inspirational, promotional, and then we'll see it back to there. So we are ready to take 10 minutes, 10-minute break. So, Greg, digamos,